Welcome to the Higher Love with Megan podcast with me, your host, Megan Cooper, a trauma-informed therapist, life coach and disruptor of wellness norms based in Brighton, UK. This isn't another nice-to-have wellness podcast. Instead, this podcast seeks to redefine what it means to be well in today's world. Here, we challenge the status quo, seek to reunite wellness with social justice and improve accessibility, diversity and inclusivity within wellness and beyond. As a listener, you are not here to passively consume. Instead, you are an ambassador for real, embodied, societal and systemic change in the world. As your host, I stand for radical self-inquiry and being able to have those confronting but necessary conversations so that we can remember our collective humanity at this time. We're here for the revolution and you've got a front row seat. Mohammed, it's so great to be joined by you this morning. Your bio on your Instagram says that your videos will either make you laugh, make you think, or make you regret following you. And I definitely see myself in the first two categories of those, but not the last one. So I've been really looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much. I hope that stays the same because I've had a lot of interesting, let's just say hate mail, love mail, whatever you want to call it, over the last few weeks and months. So yeah, lots of mail. We will definitely get onto that. So I would love for you to introduce yourself in any way that feels right for you today. You cite yourself as storyteller, decoloniser, miseducator. I don't know if you want to expand on that, but just a general introduction to yourself. Thank you so much, Megan. I just want to say, first of all, I love what you're doing in terms of, like you, I'm a disruptor as well. And what you're doing is phenomenal work, and I hope that it can go and reach far places. As for me, so I began my career sort of in the therapies within the NHS. Started off more admin, clerical, but I had a background in psychology as well, so it's something that really interested me. So then I began working within mental health, counselling, developmental psychology, working with domestic abuse victims, and I also based my dissertation on the experiences of women who have experienced DV. So it was something that I wanted to look into. So I figured my career was going to head towards counselling. Then life happens, and for one reason or another, I left that position, and then I thought it was because of my late mother, God bless her soul. She always envisaged me as a teacher and educator. One summer, she was just like, why don't you just become a teacher? So casually, because she was a teacher as well. So I began my career again, first as a teaching assistant, and then training to be a teacher. I saw all the wonderful cuts that the consecutive governments made to education, and saw that play out. So yeah, I've been a teacher for the last 13, 14 years. In the midst of that, we've had pandemics, we've had genocide, and it was especially the genocide in Gaza that really shook things up for me to the point where I no longer wanted to be an educator, but I felt like I wanted to be a miseducator, because so much of what we were taught, what we learned, wasn't the truth. And now I'm in a mission to unlearn myself as well, unlearn and relearn things, at the same time be a thorn in the side of those people who have for so long told our stories for us, who have so long tried to sow the seeds of division. And it's been a bit of an awakening for me, because I've noticed just how the education system stifles children, stifles their ability to think critically and to be informed. So now I'm on a journey of ruffling the feathers of those people who want to keep us divided, those people who want to demonize us, and those people who think that they can gatekeep truth and narratives. That journey is ongoing, and I'm hoping to see where it takes me in terms of how many feathers I can ruffle.
I love that. Amen. Let's keep ruffling some feathers. Before we go on, I'd so appreciate you to hit follow or subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, click those three little dots next to settings to rate the show. On Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review, or take a moment to explore how you can rate or review on the platform that you're listening or watching. This makes a difference. I truly believe we need to have more of these conversations to shake up the status quo. We'll beat the algorithm together with your clicks and shares. Now back to the episode. You mentioned how over the last couple of years, with the pandemic coming up to, my goodness, nearly 6 years now, and then obviously the genocide that we've seen unfold within Gaza, and that sounds like a big catalyst for you in terms of unlearning, relearning. Yeah. I'm curious how, on a personal note, how the last couple of years have been for you in that unlearning, relearning process?
Well, I think I've always been aware of what's been happening in Palestine, and I've always tried to be someone who wanted to amplify the voices of those people who are being oppressed, the Palestinians in Gaza, in West Bank, in Sudan, in Rohingya, just people. I've always been someone who wanted to connect with people, and that's me at my core. I don't care who you are. If you're a human being, which I'm unfortunate to say that there are very few of those at the moment. They're just bodies, right?
Yeah.
I was always aware of what was happening, but I did not know just how complicit Western society was. I mean, we've read about the creation of the nation state, fascism, World War II, but I didn't know just how deep and embedded this complicity was within not just our politics, but also institutions of education, media, and even the language that we use. As a teacher in schools, words that we use, the sort of the rhetoric that's allowed to exist, it was almost like a cage, right? We were given a script, and this is what we had to follow. I had visited Palestine in July of 2023, and I got to meet the people there. And whilst it was a beautiful experience to meet regular people in the West Bank, and these were people of all, these were Muslims, these were Christians, these were atheists, these were people with they were human beings, right? Different beliefs, right? And just saw the brutality of the occupation, and it triggered something in me where I felt like we are living in such luxuries within our own existences. And look at these people, and not once did I hear them complain. This is pre-genocide. This is pre-October 7th. They're living under occupation. The dignity that they demonstrated in that week that I was there was incredible. They're living under occupation, yet they wouldn't take my money. There was so many instances where I just wanted to buy a coffee, and they wouldn't take my money. It got to a point where it was really, really overwhelming. Like, please, let me support you. Just take my money. I got a haircut. The guy wouldn't take my money. Such wonderful, dignified people. Returning from Palestine, I was sure that I was going to do things differently. I was going to relearn what I know about this conflict. And then the genocide began. And then people who I thought were friends, colleagues, good people began to reveal themselves, because we can all have our opinions about what actually happened. But when you've got such a brutal occupation happening, and you see not just the physical occupation, but the mental occupation that so many people are living with, it was extremely powerful. It just forced me to ask myself questions as to, am I complicit in this? What am I doing just beyond social media? What can I do to amplify the voice of these people? And like all of us, seeing the images of these children, of these human beings being massacred, it's been unlike anything we've ever witnessed before. And it's just been a reminder of how fragile life is, and how grateful we should all be with all the blessings that we've got. But it's made me angrier and more determined than ever before to continue being a thorn to those people who have allowed this to happen. And one thing that really strikes me, that's kept with me over the last couple of years, is on the last day that I was in Palestine, in Jerusalem, there was this merchant. He was selling herbs, different types of herbs, and he told me, "I don't want your money. I don't want you to donate to us. We're grateful, but what I want you to do is keep talking about us. Don't forget us. You are our people." And he wasn't talking to me as just a Muslim, Arab, whatever. I'm not Arab, but he was just talking to me as a human being. He goes, "You people who are talking about us, you are giving us the energy to continue carrying on resisting this occupation." I guess it's just been the last couple of years have, and I don't want to make this just about how I'm feeling, but it's just been a journey of education for me, learning, and not just learning from the books from the colonizer. I'm using that word deliberately because that seems to be the buzzword recently, but learning from the actual people who have experienced this, not learning from Western sources, not learning from the people who essentially allowed this to happen, but learning from the people in which it actually affected. So speaking to Palestinians, speaking to grandchildren of Nakba survivors, connecting with people in Gaza on the ground. And that has been incredibly eye-opening, and it's ongoing. So I hope that whatever reckoning comes for those people, that we're able to be a part of it and be a small component in giving justice to those people.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's so moving, so many parts of what you just shared, but especially speaking about what was said to you of, we don't want your money, just keep speaking, keep being the voice and standing in solidarity. And my father asked me several weeks ago, why Palestine? Why was it that this was the catalyst, the straw that broke the camel's back? Because I hadn't had, I guess, the historical knowledge around Palestine or the struggle before all of this happened. And he said, was it my revulsion at what was going on, or was it out of love? And it was a really interesting question for me, because I reflected that actually in the beginning, it was about the revulsion. It was about what I saw and the injustice and the depravity of what we were seeing. But as I myself re-educated myself about the history of Palestine, as I got to know Palestinians in my own community, as I got to know Palestinians in the occupied territories and in Gaza, and had similar experiences to what you have shared of the dignity, of the love, of the level of faith, I was blown away by these people, absolutely blown away. And it was a really interesting reflection for me that actually all of this has been a journey into love. All of it has been a journey into a sense of greater humanity, seeing myself in everybody and vice versa. It's just so moving what you've shared there of just to keep talking. And I hear that as a kind of a real incentivizer as to why to keep doing this work and joining the dots of how we're seeing the complicity within our own political landscape. So thank you so much for sharing that.
No, you're welcome. The fact that we have similar experiences, I mean, we're all connected. We're all connected through our shared humanity. And just what you said there about talking, it's a simple act, yet so much money, resources, energy is being put into stopping us talking.
Yeah.
So much effort has gone into silencing voices, into gatekeeping our conversations. And talking now is the most simple, purest form of resistance. And I'm very much on I don't want to use the word crusade, because that word, it often has connotations referring to a certain mindset, but on a personal quest, I suppose, to just continue talking to different people who share similar mindset, and we don't have to agree on everything, but the shared humanity, and who want to have conversations about breaking down these barriers and breaking down these walls that have mentally imprisoned us for so long.
I love that. And I've noticed as well, you're wearing the press t-shirt of Anas Al-Sharif, who's I still miss that man so deeply, but I've watched the journalists over the past years and their courage to tell the truth. And I think that there is a real responsibility for those of us that have the freedom and capacity to do so, to keep speaking truth. So thank you also for modeling that through your t-shirt.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm curious for you, with all of this, the unlearning, the relearning, how that has potentially shifted your understanding around mindset work. I mean, obviously your Instagram handle is Mindset with Muhammad, and you've spoken about your background with the NHS, psychology. I'm curious whether your understanding of mindset has changed over this period.
Yeah, so for so long we've thought of this word well-being, right? And I've never really understood what it meant. You hear it, well-being, whether you're at work or whether you're just hearing it in common language, I suppose, when people are speaking. I never really understood what it meant. It was until I actually went into a dark place following the passing of my mother, and it was a very difficult journey in terms of how to allow, because we're taught that grief has 7 stages, and this is how you deal with grief, and this is what you go through, and it's all very cliche, but unless you've experienced it yourself, and there is not one way of dealing with grief. And for me, it was just, I was in a limbo, really, until someone that I spoke to said, we need to reframe this phrase from well-being to well-doing. What are you doing? We have a responsibility towards ourselves. And for me, it fed into this idea of mindset. I can choose to feel defeated and feel lost in this grief, or I can choose to do something about it, and out of the love for my mother, live in a way that's going to honor her and foster that love between people. Ultimately, that is what grief is, isn't it? Grief is love expressed in a different way. And I've stumbled, I've fell, I've made countless mistakes in that time, but I wanted to take back ownership of this process, and the only word that came to my mind was mindset. So when I dabbled in therapy, a lot of it didn't resonate with me culturally, didn't resonate with me in terms of my outlook on life. So I began to explore, what does therapy mean? What does mindset mean? Is it just one sort of definition for it? And that's when I was connecting with different people within different disciplines, and just learning how different cultures speak of the self, speak of the ego, speak of, I suppose, the human psychology. And that's when I realized that there's so much more to human behavior than what I was taught, which is why I decided, okay, I'm going to take all the lessons that I've learned from different teachers, from different backgrounds, different cultures, and just take the good from those things and see if I can apply in my life. And over the last few years, I've been able to get to a place where I feel at peace with the choices that I've made, the mistakes that I've made. And there's a lot more emphasis on abundance rather than scarcity. We talk about different mindsets, not looking at what I've lost, but looking at what I've gained, not looking at, what I don't have, but what I do have. Those simple conversations with myself. I remember listening to one of your earlier shows regarding how therapies have been sort of gatekept. I think it was it Media Narratives?
With Ashira Darwish?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that really resonated with me, because when I was in sort of the psychology world, mental health, counseling world, a lot of it seemed like it was from a skewed perspective. And a lot of what I wanted to bring to the table just felt like it didn't fit within that narrative, fit within that accepted frame of therapy or wellness. So, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way was just that, for me, mindset, everyone has their own approach to things. But for me, it's about employing abundance, looking at things from a glass half full, not a glass half empty thing. But at the same time, I think it's got a dual meaning to it as well. Is for so long we've been fed lies, we've been fed bullshit from different organizations, from different institutions, from different bodies. And I want to be a small part in flipping that mindset and to giving people back control, and not outsourcing their thinking and their moral judgments based on the algorithm, or based on hate, based on rage, and all the nastiness that's out there.
I think we live in in some ways, grief illiterate society. And I know many people, my husband, some of my closest friends, who've really opened themselves up through grief and taken themselves on very profound journeys. And it sounds to have been the same for you. And, a question also comes up for me I have, I guess, my own reflections on our kind of generalized mainstream mindset work. I mean, for me, it feels, I guess, like it has been written by white men for white men, tends to be the kind of generalized sense that I personally get. But I'm curious for you, when you said that there was a lot that you didn't resonate with culturally, what do you feel was lacking for you in our mainstream approach to mindset, would you say?
I think the biggest thing for me was this emphasis on the self, on the individual, on you as an individual, me, myself, and I, and this almost self-worship about it's your feelings, it's your worldview, everything about you, as in me. And growing up, my mother was very altruistic, and she was someone who always wanted to look at the other. She was someone who, sometimes to the detriment of, marriage, sometimes she was always looking at what can she do to others. And for me, she was embodying a beautiful prophetic tradition from our faith. So when I was going through the whole process of trying to navigate this grief, I found that a lot of it was giving too much emphasis on my feelings. And that's not how, in my tradition, in my culture, in my way of life, we see things as we're part of a whole, we're part of something far greater than just ourselves.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the biggest barrier, because whilst I understand we're all individuals and we all need to empower ourselves, what I struggled to understand and get on board with was it's about you and that's it. It felt very alien to me, because it's never been about me. It's always been about the collective, be it my family, my community. It was something that didn't resonate at all. So which is why I disconnected from it, really, because for me, mindset it's not just the individual. The mindset affects other people, and we can have a shared collective mindset, right? For example, this idea of a shared humanity, this idea of, unlearning what we've been taught, that is a shared collective mindset. So at my core, I'm someone who believes in the interconnected nature of humanity rather than just a sole individual pursuit and individual way of looking at things. That makes sense?
Yeah, total sense. You know, even language around self-help or personal development, self-development. The focus is very much on myself, which is supportive in some situations, especially kind of individuating from perhaps systems, the capitalist system, which treats us in a certain way and expects us to be a certain way. However, it lacks this sense of community, this sense of interrelation, this collective sense of humanity. Your videos are absolutely brilliant that you
Thank
do
you.
on Instagram. I always watch them and I'm like, how did he think that up? Like, well done. Deeply appreciate people who can make us laugh whilst talking about the really challenging times through which we're living.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you how you see the interrelation of being well and politics.
Well, I think it's very hard to live in 2020 and be someone who just doesn't care or speak about politics.
Yeah.
The other day I was driving, to the city, and then I was talking to my kids about the House of Commons, and it got me thinking: is that what people think politics is? A bunch of people just talking about the country. Politics is beyond that. It's your life, my life, how life is governed, society is governed. So, for me, about the satire, for me, the only way to make sense of what was going on in the world, in our country, was just to laugh at it. That was the only way that I could make sense of it. But otherwise, you have a choice. You either look at it, ignore it, or you allow it to defeat you, or you take back control and to use language from the far right, take back control, and you take ownership of that and just laugh at about the complete stupidity of some of these arguments and the way things are playing out. So it was all by accident, to be honest. During the summer last year, when you saw the flags happening, and then you heard the demonizing language, and then there were some people who just wanted to bury their head in the sand and say, I just want to worry about me, myself, and I. And there were others who wanted to tackle it head on. And I was someone who believed, I'm not into politics, but now I realized politics cares about me. I may not care about politics, but it cares about me. It's impacting my day to day. So the video that really got people looking at me and talking to me was me on a whiteboard talking about spelling and grammar inaccuracies, a lot of these messages that were going out. I dabbled in content creation before. I was allowing too much AI content, allowing artificial intelligence to write my script. I thought, no, you know what? I'm not gonna write script. Someone sent me a death threat, and the spelling, and I couldn't take it seriously because number one, it had no picture on it, but then the spelling mistakes in that message, and I don't want to be someone elitist and someone who's looking down upon people who struggle with spelling. No, wasn't that, but they were so passionate in their hatred and anger towards me, and they were demanding that I leave the country, but they couldn't even spell basic words correctly. I thought, okay, this might get me in trouble. This might get me in hot water with some people. All right, but I'm just going to do it. So I got my whiteboard out, and it was just a simple thinking, you want to take your country back. All right, fair enough, but at least take your language back first. So that was the sort of the mantra that was in my mind. I was treating it as if I was teaching the children at school, and it felt great because it was just me being me, really. I wasn't trying to put on an act. I wasn't trying to be overly rage baity. And then it got a lot of attention from a lot of people. And then for me, it gave me that confidence to really delve into this aspect of life, politics, and just it allowed me to see the myriad of injustices, of fuckeries, of the way language is the most important thing, how language is manipulated. I've always been interested in how the media works. I remember doing this module at university about media meanings and how discourse and how people who use words, they're using them for a particular reason. We have prime example when we still have the genocide where you had Palestinian prisoners and Israeli hostages. So every word is a choice. So I guess what got me really activated was just the language being used, and something that I want to highlight more and more and give people that that control and that confidence in educating yourself, uneducating yourselves on certain things, but giving power to where you understand that it all begins with words. The more you equip yourself with words and how words work, the less control they have over you, the less they're able to divide you, the less they're able to manipulate you. Because the one thing that these people who are this group of elites, the Epstein elites, the people who want to keep us dumbed down, the one thing that they fear is an informed mind. So I'm hoping that through the work that I do, the work that you do, is that we're just taking small steps into informing people and giving people that ability to say no when they're telling us to say yes.
I love that. And I was just reflecting that the first video that I saw of yours, I think, was your video about taking the lions back.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved it. I found it so funny. I love that kind of work. And, it's another reason why I love the Trawl podcast with Marina Purkis and Gemma Ford. Just this finding levity in the madness. Maybe it's something that's calibrating to your nervous system, that you feel like you can kind of zoom out a little bit. Because, if we were stuck completely in just the fuckery of it all, then that would just be a bit overwhelming, wouldn't it? Which it definitely can be.
Absolutely. I think I just want to touch on, I think it was a few years ago where Marina was on this ITV and there was Anne Widdecombe playing Mario Kart, and we love Mario Kart at home, right? Girls were just playing it a few minutes ago, and I saw that video and I was finished. I was laughing my ass off because it was just how Marina nonchalantly was talking about the way the people have destroyed the country while they're playing Mario Kart. I thought, I love this. So I did take a lot of inspiration from certain people, Marina being one of them. And I really, really want to continue just using levity, using a bit of satire, because what it does is that it just highlights things in a way that you just can't get from content made to educate people, because people want to feel something, right? People either want to feel angry, people want to feel smart, or they want you to make them laugh. So, and I felt like humor was a way, because for me, it saved me, because I, just go off on a tangent here. When I was growing up, I had a speech impediment. I couldn't even speak. I was secondary school. It happened during primary school. I didn't speak much in primary school, but in secondary school, they make you they make you speak. And I was a reluctant speaker. I loved reading, and I was a bit of a nerd, and I loved my Lord of the Rings. I loved my comics, and
Me too.
I had so much to say. We talk about that later. I had so much I wanted to say, but I felt I couldn't say it. And I just realized how important the power of words were. So it was comedy that allowed me to break that barrier. I began talking about even some of the hypocrisies I saw from the teachers in school. And God bless them. I'm not sure if they're still around, but, it was comedy. It was satire. It was dark humor that allowed me to sort of overcome that. I think that there's so much power in making people laugh and smile in times of absolute darkness, because there is so much good out there, right? There's so much good out there. And it's important that we don't allow ourselves to just focus on the negative, but to focus on those little glimmers of hope that are there, because as Zach Polanski says, we need to make hope normal again. Yeah. I just want to say Zach Polanski is so weird, because finally a normal politician who speaks like a human being. He's a normal guy talking about normal things. He's an alien.
Totally. A unicorn that I wish that we could replicate more of. Totally. You mentioned at the beginning of the conversation you'd had pushback from friends and, colleagues. You also mentioned you'd had death threats. I'm curious for you how you process this pushback from people within your community or online.
Well, at first it was, I think from friends and family, it was well-meaning, I didn't really discuss it with anyone when I decided that, yep, the far right were going to be in my crosshairs. But when it happened, it was, okay, you need to be careful, because it's very easy for people to find out where you live, and, you've got a family, you've got children, you've got a career. So a lot of it, the initial pushback was just for my own personal safety, really. A lot of people were, at that point in time, people were feeling emboldened in terms of aggression towards Muslims or people that look like me. And then there was also that worry that, okay, will it impact me professionally? Because I'm very unapologetically, as you are, speaking out against Zionism, against the terrorist entity of Israel and all of its forms. So that came with its own baggage as well. But when I began getting the actual death threats, at first I felt like it was a badge of honor. Oh, you're doing something right. It was just one or two here and there. But then the volume increased. And then it was quite interesting thinking, are these people bots? Are they really human beings? And then it was getting a bit more vociferous in terms of the volume and the graphic detail of what they wanted to do to me. And then for a while it was, okay, take a step back now, because I've ruffled enough feathers. And it was very upset, because I live in a community where it's an extremely mixed community, and I live around people from different walks of life, and there were people now who I'd walk past the street and I had to check myself thinking, are these people that I'm interacting with, white working class people, are they looking at me with disgust, disdain? Do they want me out here? So the autumn was a bit challenging because I was hyper vigilant as to where I was going, avoiding speaking to certain people because it was very, very intense at one point. And then I just remember the people that I know. I put out a video about a year ago saying the nicest people I've ever met in my life were white working class people that I grew up with in London, because regular people had the same struggles that I had, working class background, same aspirations. It took a lot of sort of internal dialogue for me to actually continue with what I was doing, because it felt as if I didn't get out of that mindset, so to speak, then I wasn't going to do anything. It was just going to be a hobby on social media. For me, if I actually wanted to disrupt narratives, and if I actually wanted to be someone who helps people reclaim their voice, then I had to get over that and get over some of that. Again, I made it less about me. Yes, they're sending me messages of abuse, whatever. People get it far worse than me. I mean, Diane Abbott, Sangeeta Maiska, what these guys are getting, horrific. And now it's a bit more sophisticated with some of the threats that I'm getting, but I just laugh at it now because I can't give this any of my energy because it takes away from some of the good work that I want to do.
Yeah.
But so I had the personal pushback. I had the pushback from, some of my fans. And then there was, I suppose, some pushback from people within certain organizations. I was contacted by a few organizations to do sketches with them, collaborate with them. Again, it felt like a lot of gatekeeping. It felt like I was being muzzled a bit. And no, for me, I wasn't interested in that. I didn't want to be pigeonholed. So it's currently just a balancing act. I believe in what I'm doing. I believe that my mission is to connect with people. My mission is to reclaim narratives, to decolonize thinking. And what began as a simple social media hobby has now morphed into something more that feels like a passion project. And I've been fortunate enough to connect with people like yourself who are aligned in that mission. It's just a case of blocking out that noise and continuing. And I think we owe it to those people who don't have the voices. We owe it to those people that are not able to tell their stories, be it, women who are being abused left, right, and center, who feel like the minute they speak out, that's it. To the people in Gaza, who have so long have had their stories told for them. So the mission is far greater than how I feel about some nasty little people online.
Totally. Thank you for sharing that. It is part of the process, isn't it? Because, I myself have also experienced a lot of pushback from friends, community, online, offline, and it's challenging. It is part of the process. And, to then get to the other side, where you have a slightly different relationship with it. But I feel like it does put people off. It does put people off from speaking out online, talking about things that are important. And I definitely sense that within the wellness space, that's part of my mission, really wanting to disrupt our sense of being well and what it means to be well at this time, and really empower people to speak about the times through which we're living. And I'm curious for you, whether you have any sense of advice or encouragement for people within our kind of arena of education, well-being, to speak up or partake more actively in the issues of our time.
Well, I mean, I'm still on the journey myself in terms of finding the resources within to continue doing what I'm doing. I think the one thing that people have told me over the last 6 months to a year was, how'd you get so confident? And the thing is that people believe that it's something that you're born with, like confidence is something that you just one day wake up and there you go. And what I tell them is I'm actually not a confident person. I'm actually someone who can be afraid sometimes, or like everyone else. But confidence is a process. And I think for so long, so many people have had their stories told for them. They've had words used on them that they don't subscribe to, been demonized to the point where any sense of confidence, self-esteem, meaning has been shattered. I'm not sure how useful this advice is, but if, for example, you want to do something, there's never going to be a right time for you to do that thing. You have to do it. And you will fail, you'll stumble, but you'll pick yourself up and you will do it again. And it's through repeated failures and repeated lessons from those failures that eventually you become stronger, right? So I think the one thing that I'll say to people who are navigating difficulties in terms of speaking out is everyone's got something to say. Your voice is important. Our voices, collective voices, are so important. people are spending billions to stop us talking. We have so much power. For so long, we've conceded that power to the elites. For so long, we've conceded that power to organizations that are hell-bent on keeping us dumbed down. So that what I would say is, you've got a voice. In whatever capacity you've got, use that voice. Whether it's a tweet or whether it's a post, whether it's attending a protest, use your voice. Another thing that I will say is, there's this famous African proverb. It goes something along the lines of, until the lions learn how to write, the stories will continue to glorify the hunters. Everyone here has got a story to tell, and you have a duty to tell your story. Otherwise, someone's going to tell that story for you. And I think that's what's keeping me going, because I don't want anyone else. We had 9/11 and we had 7/7. We had people talking about Muslims in a way that was inaccurate, number one, but also in a way that was akin to 90s Germany, the way it would be demonized. And I thought, now as an adult, as someone who's lived through that, and we're seeing it rise up again this time, no, I'm not going to allow you to tell me what my words mean. I'm not going to allow you to tell me what my experiences are. I'm not going to allow you to define my culture for me. Hopefully that was useful in terms of advice, but I'm still figuring it out as I go along.
So helpful. And, it brought a couple of things up for me when you were talking about the billions of pounds or billions of dollars that get spent on propaganda. I saw a meme at some point last year drawing attention to how satisfying it is when you consider that the billions of dollars of propaganda didn't work on you. That is a very liberating thought.
Wow, yeah,
and then it's like, yes, I beat the highly entrenched system.
Yeah.
We're obviously still deeply, deeply conditioned and complicit within it. But our thoughts are being decolonized.
Yeah.
And, then it's a case of, and what do we then want to do with that? And, it also brought up something for me that, when because people say that to me of, you seem so confident, you seem so this, you seem so that. And I'm a deeply introverted person. Like, my nervous system and energetic capacity, I think, is still primed for living in a cave. Like, that would be a far, far better solution for me as an individual at this time.
I hear that.
But it's been a process of speaking out. I remember after October 7th, 2023, I needed to go through a process of unlearning to understand what was actually happening, the deeper historical context. So I was looking at everything that was happening and thinking, this is deeply unacceptable, but I need to understand. And, I started sharing to stories. Then I made one video. Then I posted a little bit more onto my grid, and then I got comfortable making videos. Then I relaunched my podcast. It was like, there was definitely a process to that of like gaining reps, almost like building up the muscle in the same way as like, when we go to the gym. So it is a process, so I think it's really important when people look at people such as yourself, such as, the people who would look to me and think the same, to understand that that person has also gone through a process of speaking up. We didn't just kind of arrive on the internet and feel like totally fine creating content every single day. That is a process. So to not be put off by this idea that those people have something that you don't. But then, what you shared there of like, you feel so deeply connected to your why behind it all and connected to the truth behind what you're sharing. And it's something that I myself have to come back to when I get the threats, when I get the backlash, pushback. I know that I'm deeply anchored in the work that I do. I know how passionate I am about it. I know how important it feels for me and for the collective. And when that why is so grounded and anchored within me, it really gives me, I suppose, a bigger capacity to deal with the inevitable shit that does come our way.
Yeah, it's like a way of fortifying yourself, isn't it? I mean,
Totally. And also, the community that we create. I was joking with a friend last year that I felt like I'd swapped one echo chamber of the well-being world into another echo chamber of solidarity space. She was like, that to me doesn't sound like an echo chamber. That sounds like a fortified chamber. There's a lot of shit outside of that chamber. But creating community, finding people on the internet whose values we align with, we do create this sense of community and other people doing this work, which does provide a lot of fortification as well.
Absolutely, 100%.
I wanted to ask you as well, it takes quite a lot to remain informed and engaged with everything that is deeply challenging at this time. And I think that it does put people off this idea of, oh, if I stay engaged, then I'm going to become overwhelmed and I need to protect myself in that kind of way. I'm curious for you how you stay informed and engaged and balanced and sane at this time.
I don't know. It's very difficult to, in my view anyway. So we're living in unprecedented times, right? We're living in times of genocide. You've got what's happening with these despicable revelations from the Epstein stuff, and it takes its toll. It takes its toll. One thing that I've tried to do is I've tried to be kind to myself and compartmentalize a lot of that, because you're always going to want to, I suppose, speak out for causes that you believe in. Whether it's in Gaza, whether it's in Sudan, whether it's in Congo, whether it's what's happening in Cuba and Venezuela, whether it's, if you're someone who has that within you, that solidarity within you, you try and amplify the voices of those who don't have voices. At the same time, it's important to take stock of your own capacity. And I remember after October 7th, it was relentless, constantly reposting, sharing stories on, be it WhatsApp, Instagram, and it got to a point where there's only so much you can take seeing children, and it destroys you and breaks you. And then the way I look at it is, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and we have to take stock, take a step back, and actually focus on the bigger picture here. And we have to look at what, go beyond social media, right? What can we do beyond social media that can amplify the voices and support people who are struggling to have their stories told? And I always go back to that old saying, I can't remember who it was, but you can't give from an empty cup. So it took me around, after the genocide began, around 9 months to take a step back and actually focus on fortifying myself more, allowing myself a breather. And I remember getting a lot of pushback saying, well, you can afford a breather. There are people in Gaza who are getting relentlessly, yeah, I hear that, but I'm no good to those people if I am overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I've got a family, and I look at my family and my children, my wife, my dad, my siblings, and I tell myself, okay, you know what? These people need me as well, and my community needs me, my cat needs me. So you have to be very, very. One of the hardest things to do is to be kind to yourself. We can be kind. We can be supportive and kind to other people, but we're very slow to take our own advice. So I give myself limits. I become more disciplined in that sense, where after a certain time of the day, I disconnect. My heart is still connected to these causes, but physically, I disconnect, and I give my time and attention to those people who need me, which is my family, to myself as well. So allow myself that time to just be, right, and just exist without having activist mode on or content creator mode on. But things will come at you all the time. Things will always come at you. One of the things that really, really grinds my gears is this whole red pill alpha male stuff. And I've only got girls, right? So when I hear the way women are spoken of and how they're commodified, it really works me up. So there are days when, I'm doing well, I'm focused, I'm diligent, and then I'll see a video of a certain human trafficker, and it grinds my gears, because I teach children and I see boys who are looking up to this individual and believing that this is the ideal for us to follow as boys, as men. And then in the work that I do when I coach parents, support parents with, raising children in a hyper disconnected, hyper distracted world, I see how young men are looking up to this way of life as the pinnacle of masculinity. So then I tell myself, if I switch off now, who's going to do the good work, or who's going to help these boys realize that you don't need money and cars and dominate women in order for you to feel like you're a man. So there are days in which you can't switch off, because you feel like the minute you do, that's one child lost, one boy lost to the matrix. So yeah, it's ongoing, Megan. Honestly, I don't have it tied down to a T. Whenever I feel like it's getting overwhelming, I do try and take a step back, but things always come at you. There's always things, and I find it very hard to switch off at times, which I need to get better at, to be honest. I think with Ramadan approaching now, it will be a good time to do that. Yeah, the algorithm isn't stopping, so I guess we have to continue fighting.
Yeah, totally. It sounds from what you're saying, what I really hear there is actually we're all just learning how to be in continual relationship with all of these issues, and something that's really helped me, which again, I am not good at necessarily keeping to, is somebody communicated to me last year or the year before, this idea of shift work or being in a choir, that when we're working together as a community, as a collective, one person's starting and one person's clocking off. When you need to take a step back, someone else is stepping back in. And when I recognize for myself that I need to take a step back, I do try to hold on to this idea that there will be somebody else who is stepping into that, but it can be really difficult. And I totally hear you, especially the stuff of, violence against women, domination of women, the rhetoric that comes out, especially the far right, we're protecting women and children. Nothing riles me more than that. So it is difficult to take a step back from that. And I hear that we're all just, trying to do that, work in progress. I just wanted to ask you one last question. What brings you hope at this time?
Well, a few things bring me hope. When I interact with the children that I teach, unapologetically reject some of the division that is being thrown. They ask questions now, children. They don't just accept it. I'm in that classroom, but I am not there to raise employees. I'm not there to just churn out robots. And my children give me hope, my daughters, because...
Is it 3 daughters that you have?
Yeah.
My goodness, you've got your work cut out for you.
Yeah, I know. They keep me busy. But, resistance begins at home. And what gives me hope is when I see the young people, yes, you do get those boys who are being intoxicated by the red pill alpha bro stuff. But in the main, young people utterly reject this language of division. They reject this language of hate. They reject this polarization that is happening en masse, because, and I don't know what age that changes, but be it primary school or secondary school children that I've interacted with, they tend to see people for who they are. In my experience, I mean, this is just me interacting with children and young people. I'm sure there's a science behind it somewhere, but talking to these young people and growing up, I don't remember my peers and I talking about the same issues. We had 9/11 happen, and I remember how divisive it was in our school. I think I was in year 11, I think, and how people were just in their own little groups and enclaves. But I'm not seeing that now. I'm seeing children who are a lot more aware of what is going on, and that gives me hope. That you see children who are just... They're connected to social media, right? So, of course, there are loads of dangers to social media and loads of harmful things that can happen on these platforms, but they're aware of things. So when you've got a 7-year-old, 8-year-old questioning why Newsround are using prisoners for Palestinians and hostages for one, I can't help but feel hope. And this was, again, you present the facts to the children, and they'll just tell you unfiltered, unapologetic perspective. Sir, why are these, sir, why are they prisoners? And I actually made a video about this, and I complained to the BBC. It was actually...
I saw that. You've done that,
Yeah. It was actually a 9-year-old girl who asked me, did they use prisoners before Palestinians because it was alliteration, because we were learning about figurative language, alliteration and metaphors. And I just started laughing. I thought, that's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Because Palestinian prisoners, PP. So that was incredible. So children do give me hope. I think we have a responsibility to encourage and to cultivate that curiosity in them. That's why I think the education system is so hopeful that my employers are not watching this, but it needs a massive overhaul, because children need to be able to be allowed to think. Schools need to be a safe space where children can think and to say what they want to say without having prevent knocking down the door. So children give me hope, but at the same time, as well as children give me hope, it's finding communities, like you mentioned, about having fortified enclaves of people that are doing incredible work, that are not just speaking up, but are on the front lines. You know, you've got these wonderful elderly people, grandparents, people in wheelchairs who are sitting down with placards. And some of us are in the ivory towers here. And I just think, wow, humanity is not dead yet. You know, you see people who are risking everything. You know, you got these hunger strikers who put themselves on the line in order for the right to dignity. So in the midst of all the darkness, in the midst of all the hatred, there are people who are continuing to be shining examples of hope. And I just hope that the more we can connect with each other, the more we can look past our little petty differences, the better it will be for us to overcome what's coming. And I don't feel hopeful about anything other than a reform government coming in the UK. I mean, Zach, you've got, whatever you're doing, Zach, do what you're doing and do more of it, because I think, Zach, the Green Party are the only alternative that we have in escaping this madness. But in the midst of all this despair, I think just connecting with people who are doing the good work out there, who are empowering people, who are rejecting the hate, reach out to those people, and which is hopefully what we're doing today, and which will hopefully reach people and galvanize people into want to do the same thing, and and spread, and it sounds so cliche, spread positivity, but just reach out to people and connect with people.
Yes, totally. Could not agree more. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I really enjoyed our conversation this morning. I know that you have 3 girls at home that you need to get back to during half term.
Yeah.
So just winding up, is there anything else that you wanted to share in our conversation this morning?
No, I just want to say it's been so nice speaking to you. Finally, I know we've spoken about this in the past, and it's so empowering to know that, again, we're not alone in this space. And I feel very, very grateful for the work that you do as well, because it's to find people, to find allies, to find solidarity, and like Khalid Abdullah said, solidarity is a verb. We've got to be doing the work, and that's a cliched phrase now, doing the work, but we've got to continue amplifying each other's voices, supporting each other, be it our personal endeavors with podcasts or platforms that we've got, because if the minute we stop, we'll get overrun. So I hope I've been able to do justice to the conversation and the platform, because honestly, it's wonderful what you're doing, and I really hope that you can continue doing the work and going places and growing even more than you already have.
Thank you so much. And more than justice, it's been really wonderful to share this time with you. As I shared with you, I was so looking forward to our conversation. I've loved your content ever since I found the video on the lions. I loved it then. I still love it now. And yeah, thank you so much for everything that you do. I look forward to seeing what comes next for you too.
Thank you, Megan.
And yeah, really grateful for your time this morning. So thank you. All of your information, ways to connect with you, will be in the show notes for anyone that's interested to connect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. It's great to have you with me on this journey towards higher love for all. Our time is our greatest commodity and gift, so thanks for investing it in yourself and sharing it with me. Please do take a moment to rate and review the show, all of which enables more people to find me and for me to connect with more great guests each week for both yours and my enjoyment. All links, references and contact information is detailed too within the show notes. And I always love to hear your feedback, so feel free to hit me up on my Instagram at higherlove_with_Megan, or via my website, higher-love.com. Send your takeaways, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share or send on to someone else who would benefit. Until next time, big love.